Hey, Kerry here, host of the Best of Us Investors. Nita and I are on a 10-day road trip, and we're spending 3 days here on Jackal Island. And I wanted to acquaint you with Jackal Island and then relate it to something that is happening in our in the world economy that is relative to the Jackal Club. Jackal Club actually dates back into the 20s when the industrialites of our country needed a place to meet and eat, and so they basically purchased this island and at least a big part of it, and created the Jackal Beach Club. And this is it. This is on the left-hand side is the original, and then on the right-hand side is the expansion. And their motive was to, at that point, these were multimillionaires. These were the people who built our country, built our factories and whatever, and they needed a place to bring their families together and, as I say, where the elite meet and eat. And they formed the Jackal Club. It got so heavily dominated by wealthy people that in 1942, in the throes of the World War II, the United States government determined that there were probably some German submarines over there in the Atlantic Ocean. So they ordered an evacuation of the Jackal Club because they determined that somewhere between 40 and 50% of the United States wealth were in that building at the time. So what does that have to do with the current situation in our economy? I believe we are going through another industrial revolution, and we are going to be creating some new filthy rich. We did it through the 90s and the 2000s. We created the Jeff Bezos and the Sergey Brims and the Mark Zuckerbergs and now the Elon Musks. And I think we're going to see another one. And this has to do with, I believe, very directly related to the coronavirus and some work that has been going on for the last 20 years in genome sequencing and CRISPR editing. And there are three companies that I'm focused on that are emerging as the winners in this. And those who are the winners are going to be the next formers of their own Jackal Island Beach Club. They're going to become filthy rich. So our place as an investor is to identify them and then invest in them. But the trick is to figure out which one it is. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, is one of them. And that is the one who carries the name of the science that's going to drive all this, and that is CRISPR. There are two others, and I'll explain to you who they are and how they came about as we get into this a bit deeper. So stay with me. It's a little warm here at the Jackal Club, but I wanted to look good for you. So stay with me. We'll get into this deeper.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
Okay, I did a video on genome sequencing, and I talked specifically about Illumina, Pacific Bioscience, and Bingo, and how they are the key three players in the genome sequencing. Once you've got the genome sequencing done, then the science of CRISPR steps in, and that is that you can identify the abnormalities within your genome, and through the use of CRISPR, you can go in and correct the mistakes and eliminate disease and potentially for forever. That being done,
in a document, if we suspect we've misspelled a word, we can use the find function to highlight the error and correct it or delete it. Within our DNA, that function is taken on by a system called CRISPR-Cas9. CRISPR is short for clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. CRISPR consists of two components, the Cas9 protein that can cut DNA and a guide RNA that can recognize the sequence of DNA to be edited. To use CRISPR-Cas9, scientists first identify the sequence of the human genome that's causing a health problem. Then they create a specific guide RNA to recognize that particular stretch of A's, T's, G's, and C's in the DNA. The guide RNA is attached to the DNA-cutting enzyme Cas9, and then this complex is introduced to the target cells. It locates the target letter sequence and cuts the DNA. At that point, scientists can then edit the existing genome by either modifying, deleting, or inserting new sequences. It effectively makes CRISPR-Cas9 a cut-and-paste tool for DNA editing. In the future, scientists hope to use CRISPR-Cas9 to develop critical advances in patient care or even cure lifelong inherited diseases.
Over the last 20 years, there were a group of scientists who worked diligently on understanding CRISPR. These were scientists, and they were working in test tubes and petri dishes. Now we are at the verge of, okay, how do we create a therapy based on CRISPR and deliver it to the public? Well, this is where the businessmen came in. This is where the people who said, okay, we've got CRISPR, now we need to create a therapy, and how are we going to monetize that? Now, the two of the key players are the two, what was it, the big award, and it was Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Carpentier received the Nobel Peace Prize jointly this last year. Well, you would think as a result of that these were two people who worked together. They did work periodically in the same lab, but in the world of science, it's he who submits the paper first that wins. And both Jennifer and Emma and other people submitted papers, but the Nobel Peace Prize Committee determined that Jennifer and Emma would receive the award. So they got a lot of national attention. They then both talked about monetizing their work, and they looked into it. Jennifer was approached by Editis, but she only stayed there for about a month. And she basically believed that the men were beating up on her, and so she walked away from it. She formed one company by the name of Caribou, and then she formed another one, which is Intella. Is that correct? Yes. And yes, Intella. N-T-L-A. At the same time, Emma took the name CRISPR, and I guess it was something of a coup, and created a company with that name. So we now have the three major players are CRISPR, Intella, and Edits. I want to talk about Emma's company first, and then in later videos I'll talk about the other two. I happen to own all three of them. I hold 250 shares at roughly $114.18, $29,000 worth of CRISPR, and I'm going to add to that position. I do not know if they are going to be the one who comes out on the winning side. I don't know that there will only be one. There may be all three of them working in different areas. What CRISPR is working on is basically three areas. In vino, which is relative to sickle cell disease, they're working on a cancer editing element, and they're also working on other areas that they aren't really disclosing much on. They've recently created a partnership, that is CRISPR, with Venturex Pharma. Venturex, and I alluded to this in another video, fronted them $900 million on the clinical studies that they are currently doing with the sickle cell therapy. Now, there is another company that has a therapy for sickle cell, but they only have an 80% efficiency. It is alluded to by the CEOs and the head scientists of CRISPR that they can get to 95%. If they do that, this stock will explode. They will have been potentially the first one to totally monetize this therapy. And thus, I am in a position, as I said, I hold 250 shares, where I'm ready to come in and buy another 250 shares. Why is that? Well, I own it at 114. I think today it's selling at 116. It's been as high as, I believe, $220 a share. I think that is probably a more fair price on it. But let's just say that we split the difference and call it 150. I think this is very easily then a $450 stock. If in fact they put this together like they are proposing to do and give us the therapy to cure sickle cell, and then use that as a springboard to create similar therapies for various types of cancer. Now, I need to share with you up front, this is a high-risk bet. There's a stock by the name of Bluebird. If you're familiar with this field, you probably know about it. They came out with a sickle cell therapy, but their patient that they showed that was cured then shortly thereafter developed, I believe it was leukemia, and the market basically said the cure caused the leukemia. We don't know if that is true or not, if something else caused the leukemia, or it would have been there anyway. We don't know that. I share that with you because that's the risk you're playing. This should not be a major holding in your portfolio. It should be a speculative holding. Your major holdings should be in the big six. And if you watch many of my videos, you know what the big six is. They are the people who are controlling the data. They're already established. They're already profitable. CRISPR is not profitable. So they are totally speculative. And I want you to understand that. But as I said, much as the tycoons of the 1920s had that place to meet and eat, and the Jeff Bezos and the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Sergey Brims were of the internet revolution. These are the people who are in position. These are the companies that are in position to take advantage of the next revolution. And we'll call it an industrial, a technological, a medical. I believe it is properly identified as the medical revolution that is going to change the way we live. I mean, it is going to eliminate the threat of another pandemic. It is going to eliminate the potential of me and more of my family dying from cancer or getting Alzheimer's or getting any form of genetic disease. These people, some of them will get it done. I don't know, and I'm betting on 3 of them. There's more horses than that in the race. I'm betting on win, place, and show. Okay? So that's my take on this. I think if you are an active investor and you want to participate in real winners, you need to own these stocks. And that's my take on CRISPR. Later I'm going to do one on edits, and then I'll also do a video on Intella. And here comes the lawnmower, so I'm going to have to get out of here. I'm Kerry Grinkmeyer. I'm the host of Best of Us Investors, and stay with us. Join our tribe at Best of Us Investors and come to our Discord. Talk to you later.